important thing in using the radar is obviously to control the initial point of attack, and that's what the radar is designed to allow the F-15 pilot to do, to control that initial merge or the initial point of attack by shooting first or getting to a position where he can employ ordnance first, and that's what runs the war.
The reason the F-15 is so big is primarily because of the emphasis that was placed on the radar capabilities in order, again, as I said earlier, to get that first shot opportunity.
As far as the AIM-9, yes, we do get cockpit indications. What we get is a display up on our heads-up display. We basically get a circle indicating where that heat missile is looking, and it mutates, as we call it, sits there and rotates around the aircraft. If we can see the aircraft in our HUD field of view, it's actually tracking them. We also get a tone in our ear. It basically differs between the AIM-9L and the AIM-9M. One is a chirp and the other one is just kind of a tone. But you can tell that there is no doubt in your mind that it is tracking the heat source out there and what heat source it is tracking.
also added a HOTAS function for the F-18, which is hands-on throttle and stick, where virtually all the radar and the instrumentation work can be changed from leaving your hands on the throttles and your hand on the stick, which means you don't have to move your hands around the cockpit much to change anything.
I think it's imperative that a fighter pilot have 20/20 or better vision and at least corrected to that. I think it's critical to have excellent eyesight, and not only excellent eyesight for your Mark I eyeball, but also to have a very good visual search pattern as you're flying out there. That's something that we stressed in early mission qualification training for young guys coming into the fighter community. It's imperative to be able to find that threat, because no matter what type of radar you have, at any given time, it's only going to give you a tally-ho on one aircraft.
You solve those problems in pilot training. You educate the guys that that this threat exists or this problem area exists, and you teach them how to counter it. And they teach us maneuvers on how to tighten up our bodies and keep the blood from flowing down to the lower extremities or to the outer extremities, out into your arms and down to your feet, so that you don't lose consciousness in the air. And they can put us through a centrifuge at Brooks Air Force Base that teaches us to work on these straining maneuvers that allow us to keep the blood up in the top portion of our bodies. They've also tried things like reclining seats, like an F-16, reclining that back in a 30-degree angle. The F-15 seat is reclined at a 15-degree angle. It's just designed to create more of a transverse G component, or a G through this part of the body instead of from top to bottom. And that helps the pilot a little bit. Obviously, the anti-G suit helps the pilot a little bit. For the most part of it, the technology, the things they can do technological-wise, like slanting seats back and things like that, can't begin to have the effect that the individual straining maneuver does, and that has to be taught in pilot training.